So let's talk a little bit about nightmares. Nightmares, they're not normal. A lot of people think, oh, you get nightmares, they come and go. It's kind of a normal thing. It's something that can happen. It happens to kids all the time. I want to submit to you today that nightmares are normal, and every single form of nightmare terrors where we are struck with a fear in our dreams, where we are, where we have all these weird experiences a lot of times. I want to submit to you that 100% of nightmares are influenced by the demonic. 100%. That means that every single time you get a nightmare, you are attacked by the demonic. I'd like to share with you my testimony today about the nightmares that I received when I was a young boy. I went through this phase where I was receiving started getting these nightmares just about every single night. And I still remember, even as a young boy, I still remember what these experiences were like. I was going to bed, sleeping as usual, but I would have this terrifying experience, this fearful experience where I didn't dream something specific, but I felt something enter my dream. And this being, whatever it was there, and it was oppressive, it was almost strangling me. And this experience was so hectic that, I started getting it every single night, and I woke up and I screamed as a little boy. I got out of my bed and I walked right around to my parents' room and screaming, and that happened for a long time. And it was so bad that I actually didn't want to go to bed anymore. I was getting too afraid to sleep. What followed was that my mom started getting really stirred up about this thing and unsure, and the Father laid it on her heart that there was something specific in our home, a specific item that she had, that is causing this or giving the enemy authority. What my mom went forth to do is she actually took that statue thing, whatever it was, threw it in the fire and burned it for about 2 to 3 days straight. And after it was burned, there was a sudden shift, and all my nightmares stopped overnight. The ones that I've been having for weeks upon months started just appeared overnight, and I was totally delivered. And from that day, I've never had another nightmare in my life again. I've never experienced another nightmare again. And I realize that now, when I look back, I realize, especially my involvement in deliverance and casting out demons and all these things, I'm realizing now that all that happened was a simple attack on me as a young boy, where the enemy saw what was coming, but he tried to instill a fear in me at a young age through nightmares, so that I would become useless and passive for the kingdom. I want to submit to you that nightmares cannot do anything to us. When we experience a nightmare, they can't touch us. The enemy, the only reason for a nightmare is to invoke a fear within us. Why does the enemy want to invoke that fear? To get us passive. So when we have a fear in us that's been instilled in us by having nightmares and all these things, a fear of the demonic, a fear of darkness, a fear of whatever, now suddenly when we're faced with a demon one day, all that fear that was instilled in us, all that trauma that came from those nightmares, come up again, and we're left being afraid of an actual demon. Well, in reality, there's absolutely nothing to be afraid of, and being afraid is actually sin, and it comes from unbelief in that our God is bigger and more capable. We are not allowed to be afraid of the demonic. The word says that where fear is, love has not been perfected. So what needs to happen is, you see, brothers and sisters, we need to first identify that a nightmare or whatever, it's only there to get us afraid. It has there's nothing that the enemy can do to us. And so what we need to do is take up our authority and say, when that attack happens, in that moment, go and say, I command you, go in the name of Yeshua, in the name of Jesus, go. You've got no place here, leave. The moment you start commanding an authority things to happen, they will stop touching you. Another thing that you can do is that every single time that the enemy touches you, and this can not only be nightmares, but any other way, whenever the enemy touches us, we need to go out and wreck his kingdom. In other words, every single time you're touched by the enemy, you go out and you say, you know what, you're going to touch me once more. I'm going to go 10 times more against your kingdom. In other words, every single time I'm touched by the enemy's kingdom, I'm going out, I'm going to pray for some people. Every single time I'm touched, I'm going to go out, I'm going to bless someone. I'm going to do whatever, and I'm going to destroy the works of the devil. And sooner or later, he's going to stop touching you. He's going to be too afraid to touch you. If he sees that the reaction of him touching you is you going out to wreck his kingdom, the natural reaction is going for him to stop touching you. It's kind of obvious, isn't it? But we never wreck his kingdom, and that's why he continues to touch us. Start wrecking his kingdom, and he'll stop touching. The next thing we need to do is we need to look at our homes to get rid of anything that we may have brought in from the outside, anything that we've bought in another country, anything we've bought from pagans, anything we've bought from weird shops, or any place where witchcraft may have been done. For oftentimes demonic spirits will attach themselves to items which we bring into our homes, and these items then carry an authority. In other words, what that means is, because I've placed it in my home, I've given this thing authority in my home, and now that's why the enemy can do whatever he wants in my home. He can visit in nightmares, he can do all kinds of weird stuff. Oftentimes, those things are in the form of false idols, false gods, idols, even if it's a souvenir. Look, brother and sister, it doesn't matter what you feel about it. It doesn't matter what you think it is. It doesn't matter what you consider it as. If it's an idol, it remains an idol. If witchcraft has been done to it, witchcraft remains on it, and you need to cast it aside. It's the same thing with Christmas trees. We say, I don't consider it an idol. But the fact of the matter is, it is a pagan idol, and it's been used for paganism forever. So having it in our homes invites everything that's attached to that paganism into our homes. Whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, it's happening. And so really what needs to happen is we need to put our foot down and ask the Father, humble ourselves, be willing to give up our traditions, desires, and all these idols, and say, Father, what is there in my home that I need to get rid of? And then whatever it is, no matter if it's sentimental, no matter what, you throw it out. Because freedom is much more valuable than a simple tradition, especially if it's rooted in paganism. Alright, brothers and sisters, I hope this blessed and encouraged you to, don't let the enemy touch you. Don't let the enemy touch your children. We don't need to live under nightmares. We don't need to be visited by them. We can just be like, hey, get behind us. We know who we are. We're sons of the living God. We're royalty. And if you're a king and you understand your kingship, royalty, and authority, you will say, what are you doing here? Get out of my house. Come on, you go. But if you don't know who you are, if you don't believe you're a king, if you don't believe in the authority that came with Yeshua that was on the cross for you, and when he said, the spirit that was in me, I'm sending for you and to indwell you. If you don't believe that that spirit is in you and the authority that comes with that is in you, you're going to be left passive against the works of the enemy. But if you do believe in that authority, take up that authority, take up that kingship, and put the enemy in his place. We don't need to live in nightmares anymore.